Welcome back, everyone. So we got a new Suikoden game for mobile. I'm just going to say this to get it out of the way. A new Suikoden game with good-looking pixel art, a new story set within the main timeline, all while frontlining a true rune, the Rune of Change, that many of us fans have thought about and theorized over at times over, I can't believe I'm going to say this, the decades is a friggin' dream come true. Oh, and then for that game to be for mobile with gacha elements is a bit of a kick in the balls. Knowing I will be playing a new Suikoden game on my phone feels like it's going against the laws of nature. This is a war crime. However, as much as this was a monkey's paw moment, I can't help but be excited. There's so much Suikoden content coming down the pipe right now. This series hasn't looked this bright in a long time. Konami is clearly trying to push forward the Suikoden IP in a big way right now. So let's look at everything that was announced, analyze it, and see where the Suikoden IP goes from here. Let's start with going over what we know about Suikoden Starleap. It's the most important thing to be announced during the Suikoden livestream, and it will be the biggest determinant of if the series gets a proper Suikoden 6 down the line. So during the live stream, the developers stated they wanted to use the new mobile game as an entry point for the series. Okay, but then they also said we want to try and let as many people as possible access the game. When you say something like that about a beloved console RPG series, and then announce the newest game for it is for mobile, you know what I hear? I hear we the company, Konami in this case, wants to try and capitalize on your nostalgia as much as possible and milk you bitches dry with microtransactions. I wouldn't expect anything less from Konami. However, it is encouraging to hear that the development team is approaching Starleap as if it were a console title. But since it is for mobile, the main story will have a staggered release, so we can only play one section of the story at a time. No matter how you spin that friggin' sucks. It sucks that we're gonna have to play one section of this story at a time. It just kills momentum. It just flat out kills the momentum of a narrative if you just have to stop for weeks or months at a time. But we don't know how staggered the release will be at this point, and you might just be better off waiting until all the sections have been released so you can play it as if it were a proper console RPG. And since it is being developed with the mindset of being a full RPG with gacha acting only as a side component, it makes me hopeful there will be a console or PC port down the line. I really want to believe Konami when they say the gacha is only a side component to the game, but I'm gonna have to see that shit first to believe it. We really are being put in a difficult position as fans when it comes to this mobile game, because so many of us, I'm sure, want this to be successful enough that it leads to a proper console Suikoden 6. That's what we all want. That's what so many of us want to have happen. But then we don't want this mobile game to be too successful where Konami's like, oh man, these mobile games for Suikoden are making us a lot of money. Maybe we should make another mobile game instead of a console game. Well, we don't want that shit. So we're in this weird middle space of like, I want you to succeed so I get what I want, but I don't want you to be too successful so that I don't get what I want. Fuck. They even acknowledged in the broadcast there was going to be some concern among fans because it was a mobile game. And they really tried to put people at ease during the live stream. I feel bad for the developers of Starleap. It's gotta suck knowing that your fans are going to be upset with your platform of choice. That's why they were getting ahead of it during the live stream, because they knew people weren't going to like it. How crappy is that? You're fighting an uphill battle before you even get started. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if a bunch of the developers actually wanted to make a proper Suikoden 6 for console, but then Konami's suits got involved and compromises had to be made for greenlighting the project. That's just pure speculation, but I just can't help but go there. A huge positive for Starleap, though, is all the main 108 stars can be collected in the main story, or if specific conditions are fulfilled, without resorting to gacha. That's huge. It sounds like Gacha will just be used for collecting characters from other games, and game events too will most likely be tied around past characters, with different costumes becoming available for them as an example. Thankfully, items and equipment will not be tied to the gacha at all, which is also great. The fewer the elements tied to the gacha, the better. It will make the transition to other platforms easier down the road, if that does happen, if the gacha isn't tied to too many of the game's systems. There's also going to be some type of resource gathering mechanic for characters that are idle at your home base too in Starleap, with the more characters you have recruited, making resource collection easier as we play the game. Kind of how Eiyuden had resource gathering as a base mechanic, but we don't know exactly how Starleap's version will tie into the many different systems the game will have. When I was first watching the Suikoden livestream, I actually had to step away for a second, I think when the orchestra was playing, and then when I came back, Starleap's footage was already playing from the trailer, and I actually thought it was a brand new Suikoden console game when I first saw it. I thought it looked spectacular. The character sprites and combat look particularly great. Apparently, how to portray each character via their pixel art was given very careful thought. The main story being set between Suikoden 1 and 5 sets up a lot of opportunity to further expand the events and lore of this time period many of us fans are familiar with. The Scarlet Moon Empire is already suffering from Wendy's influence, and Odessa is forming the Liberation Army. So it'll be interesting to see what role the Empire will play, as it is adjacent to the main area Starleap begins in. Suikoden 1 always felt like it was unfinished in certain segments and could have used some expansion. So this game could really flesh some things out. As for the Rune of Change and the time travel mechanic it has some big implications for the series' overarching story and could be a real treat for us longtime fans. One of the first things the developers said about Starleap's time travel is it will let us visit different time frames from past games, and these time frames will take place right before or right after the main story of past games, and will be either a prologue or epilogue of sorts. My interpretation of this is we will get more details on events and characters leading into each Suikoden game if it is a prologue, but if it's an epilogue, maybe we will get some more information on specific characters or events that were a bit ambiguous after the games ended. Seeing anything happen post Suikoden 3 would be amazing, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? We haven't seen the main Suikoden timeline move forward in 20 freaking years, guys. So there's a lot of potential here for some really good fan service, and to maybe even just set up some small teases potentially for a Suikoden 6, or to maybe even address some lingering questions from 3 itself. They did mention one other element to this time travel mechanic too. They also mention new perspectives for scenes within past titles that we know about. So it might not just be events that happen before or after the main stories of past games that we get to see. So we might get to see events from other characters' points of view during some of the other games' main events. For example, maybe more of Joey's or Highland's perspective during Suikoden 2. In a nutshell, we would be finding out something new from the original games that we didn't know about or get to see. Okay, quick Suikoden 3 spoiler warning. An example of what I'm talking about could be like how in Suikoden 3, the Sapphire clan, one of the 6 major grassland clans, is destroyed off-screen by Harmonia. We never got to see anything about that. It was a couple of toss-away lines in the main story. I would love to meet this clan or see what they look like at the very least. So if this time travel mechanic can fill in certain holes like this, I'm all for it. Careful consideration has gone into making sure these new events fit within the timeline of the original games and don't create conflict. The IP supervisor of the Suikoden franchise is, well, supervising these new elements specifically to maximize player enjoyment. They are being very careful not to break the characters or the continuity of world events, which I greatly appreciate because I am a lore nerd and a lot of us love this series for its continuity. As for the Stars of Destiny in Starleap, the new hero and the new 108 stars are supposed to be the main focus of the main story. All of the 108 stars will be completely new characters with a few exceptions. My guess is series staples like Vicky are who the exceptions will be. However, we will still encounter past characters and perhaps team up with them according to what the developers have said. There is, of course, a home base too where we can play minigames, talk to both gacha and main story recruited characters, and upgrade equipment. There's also a new spin on runes for this game too. Apparently, each character is locked to one specific rune, but we will get to upgrade them. So we will see how that works. I don't hate the idea of seeing iconic runes from the franchise and being able to upgrade them in new, interesting ways. Enhancing their abilities sounds cool. Army battles will have RTS elements and feature distinct unit types like infantry and cavalry, with certain characters being able to lead units, but no word yet on if duels will be a thing. Army battles have been stated to be challenging, but not too challenging for the main story, but there are plans to have army battles that feature a significant challenge as side content for players who wants to be the ultimate armchair general. I always wish Suikoden games had more ways to partake in their respective army battle encounters, so hopefully this gets carried forward to a Suikoden 6 if there is one. And they aren't messing around with the regular encounters in Starleap. They will have the classic 6-party member battle system, and I guess preemptive attacks will finally be performable in a Suikoden title due to field actions being a thing now. They likened it to Tur and Kai using their Unite attack to quickly weaken or demolish enemies in Suikoden 1. I love that reference, by the way. Regular battles might require a bit more strategy in Starleap though, because how quickly a character can perform their next action will be tied directly to if they use a regular attack, unite attack with companions, or perform a skill with a rune. This reminds me of the Legend of Heroes combat system a little, and unite attacks can also be activated by a single character instead of needing multiple characters to activate. That sounds OP as heck, but we'll have to wait and see how they implement it. And even with all of this Suikoden mobile game news, there was way more announced in this live stream for Suikoden than I ever thought there would be. There is the new manga that will cover Starleap's story. This is a great alternative for those who will never play the mobile game, but want to experience the story. So even if the game disappears, the story won't. Next is the Suikoden 2 anime that is being produced by Konami's own animation studio. I have no idea how successful this anime will be. I hope it's moderately successful. Suikoden 2 is a great story. The worst thing Konami could do is give this a half-assed approach. Either you put in the money, make the animation look great, give this story the sense of scale it deserves, make it sound fantastic, or don't even bother. Don't half-ass it. Either go all in or don't even touch it. And then there is the Suikoden 1 stage play. I'll be honest, I know stage plays exist, that's about it. I know they exist for various anime, manga, and games, but I have no idea how big of a deal they are. That is until I researched them. In Japan, they seem quite popular. Persona has had 12 different stage play productions alone. 12. From what I read, stage plays seem to be a great way to push forward an IP in Japan, to please both old fans and bring new ones in. All of this new Suikoden content really does feel like a second step forward. And they've said, if this step is successful, we'll get another step, and then a step after that. I can't help but be excited and be hopeful that this is the beginning of Suikoden coming back in a big way. But I'm gonna be cautious and protect my tender heart still for a little bit. But I can still taste Suikoden 6 getting that much closer. And if I had to guess which remaster we got next, my bets would be on Suikoden 5 right now. It is a criminally underrated RPG, and it seems like the staff leading the charge for this series revival have a soft spot for it. It just fits in so well with both the remasters and Starly, because while Suikoden 5 is a bit far geographically from the other games, it's very close in the timeline, but we'll see. God, if they just fixed the long load times for 5, I would consider that a win. The Suikoden remasters seem to have been a successful first step, as the user reviews on Steam are overwhelmingly positive, and I would like to think the reported sales so far are respectable as far as remasters of 25-year-old JRPGs go. Hopefully Konami thinks the same when all is said and done. So what did you all think of this news? Is there anything that I didn't mention that you think's quite important that you heard about? And go over to the Suikoden Wikia if you want to see the translations for the Famitsu interview. That's where a lot of my information came from. I will put a link in the description. Thanks for watching again, everybody. It felt really good to make this video. Always appreciate you tuning in. See you later.